before you're even trying to change anything in the relationship, you have to understand it, first of all. And then you have to start embodying that on your own, not even trying to apply to the relationship at this point. This looks like a man working on leadership skills, his communication skills, being more stoic, emotional mastery, right? Because if you're going to execute this in the relationship, you can't be flying off the handle. You can't be getting upset. You have to have a very, very long fuse and be calm. Because if you understand masculinity, I think the best example that I ever heard is it's like the man, masculinity is like the tree in a hurricane. And femininity is like the hurricane, because when women's emotions are all over the place, that tree needs to be able to withstand those hurricane winds. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that is important. We've talked on our own about, realizing how different things are. Like women, they enjoy the romantic things that involve like more acts of service or like planning, flowers or certain things like that. And so women might think, oh, well, he likes his candy bar, so I'm going to bring it to him. And that's a nice thing.
Right.
And they start kind of doing similar things that their husband would do for them, but they don't realize that, yes, that's nice and your husband appreciates it, but it's not what makes him feel romanced or as loved as what we talked about in the episode about how women could be romantic, which is typically more like intimacy, like physical intimacy and just intimacy in general is what men want. And it is a more simple thing.
Yeah.
And I think women, as far as the romance, they want things a little bit more complex. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think that a woman does want to feel loved in different ways so that she does feel like you fully love her. Whereas like a man just wants that physical intimacy. Like most men's love language is physical touch. Not all of them, but most of them, because that is the way that they connect more deeply with the woman that they're with. So I think, and then again, men are just like, we watched a clip from the Breakup movie.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That I'm sure people have seen before with what's his name? Jennifer Aniston and what's his name? Vince Vaughn. Vince Vaughn. And she's like, I needed you to bring 12 lemons home. And he's like, I brought 3. And she's like, yeah, that's not 12. And then he's like, well, I helped you out. I did something you liked this morning. And she's like, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So he's operating from the place that a man would like that. Like that would have made a man's day for the whole day. And he would have been like, yeah, that's great. But that's not like, not that women don't enjoy that, but that's not going to fix all the problems. That's not going to make her feel more connected to you. Like it will, but not in the way that it does for men.
No.
So men are viewing it from that lens. Women are viewing it from their lens rather than, trying to see the other person's side. And like you said, that's just one of the ways that we're very different. The communication sort of thing is also a very big difference. I'm not saying that women don't ever want their problems to be solved or the man that they're with to help them solve their problems. But a lot of the time, I think the issue is that a woman doesn't feel heard at all because the man's just focusing on solving the problems. And a lot of times it's more about the problem than about her.
Right.
And so that's where that she just wants you to listen, because at that point she knows that you care about her if you're just listening. But if you're listening to her and all you care about is solving her problem, so she'll shut up, that's how women feel if you're just trying to solve the problem, if that makes sense. Yeah. So
even if you're solving the problem to help her, it feels that way.
Right. Exactly.
And that, I mean, that's something that came up in the comments too of our videos, is the idea of how men and women experience intimacy differently, right? Because there was a lot of men that are like, physical intimacy is intimacy. It's emotional connection for men, right? And women are like, that's not emotional connection for you. I mean, it's partial, but it's like women's emotional connection is different. And so a lot of women don't understand that physical intimacy equals emotional connection
for a man.
That's how he feels. Like it's the same thing as if you're being ignored, but
emotionally.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, men have to understand that, the way that you feel about physical intimacy and feeling a connection and feeling emotional connection is exactly how women feel about romance.
Right.
And that,
right.
And so if you understand that as a man, then you're like, oh, wow. So I can do the equivalent of what I want from her, but you don't do the exact same. And that's what I was talking about. Is like, if you don't understand the difference between masculine and femininity, as a guy, you're like, well, I'm going to give her a lot of physical intimacy. Then she'll know I really love her.
Yeah.
And it's not going to work.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. I think if both men and women take the time to actually learn what the other person wants rather than what they think that they want, then they'll understand their partner better and they'll have a better connection.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So the second step. So once a man understands masculine and femininity, now it's time to start becoming masculine.
Okay.
So this is the process, right? Because before you're even trying to change anything in the relationship, you have to understand it, first of all. And then you have to start embodying that on your own, not even trying to apply to the relationship at this point. This looks like a man working on leadership skills, his communication skills, being more stoic, emotional mastery, right? Because if you're going to execute this in the relationship, you can't be flying off the handle. You can't be getting upset. You have to have a very, very long fuse and be calm. Because if you understand masculinity, I think the best example that I ever heard is it's like masculinity is like the tree in a hurricane. And femininity is like the hurricane, because when women's emotions are all over the place, that tree needs to be able to withstand those hurricane winds. And so that's what a man has to be able to do. That's being masculine, is to not be blown all over the place, no matter what the weather is of the feminine woman that he's with. And then she can trust him because he's stable.
Better than perfect, we stay